Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We are the K-Roos brothers, giving you the combat sports news around the world. We are currently in Las Vegas. We've been traveling around. We're just in Saudi Arabia covering the last crescendo, which was supposed to be the best fight card of all time. I enjoyed it.
It was one of the best fight cards that I've been to. So does that count?
Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, Bivol versus Bertabiev was probably the best boxing match I've seen live in person.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Non-stop action from round 1 to 12.
And there were some other good matches on there. Shakur Stevenson, I was actually very impressed.
Against the electrician.
Even though people weren't too impressed that it took him 9 rounds to knock him out, I had him by knockout, and I was very impressed.
Joey Parker, round 2 knockout. Was good to see.
So Saudi Arabia, they're doing something good. They're putting on good boxing events. And boxing is becoming a bit more like UFC, which I'm enjoying.
But right now we're in Las Vegas for NRL Vegas. Then we have UFC 313 coming up next week, which brings me to the breaking news for UFC 313. Dan Hooker is out against Justin Gaethje.
The co-main event is basically cancelled.
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje, I haven't named an opponent for him yet. They don't know if they're going to postpone his fight with Dan Hooker to maybe Miami or to maybe another card later in the year. But Dan Hooker is out. I think he said he's got a hand injury. And that kind of does ruin the whole card.
It kind of sucks because everyone was anticipating it's Gaethje's return after so long. Dan Hooker was talking it up. One of us is going to be in a hospital. We're going to leave it in an ambulance. But ultimately as well, the promotion of the card. It's hard because as popular as Pereira is, can't speak English. Ankalaev, English not too great. He's funny on Twitter, but I don't know if he's running his Twitter.
I think Pereira speaks better English than Ankalaev, and that says a lot.
So the main event's not really going to promote their fight as much on a world scale. So you had Dan Hooker and Gaethje promoting their fight, which is one the fans wanted to see. It's Gaethje returning. Dan Hooker's always entertaining. He's been talking up this fight like crazy on podcasts. So it is disappointing, but I'm sure this fight's going to happen again down the line. But we don't know what happens from here. Are they going to put a replacement fighter to face Justin Gaethje, or are they just going to cancel it altogether? Who are possible replacements?
Well, as soon as the news broke that Dan Hooker was out, Renato Moicano puts his hand up. I did it on 2 days. I'm happy to do it in 2 weeks. Fiziev, I can't pronounce his name, but he put his hand up and said he wants a rematch with Justin Gaethje.
Gamrot says, my match with Dan Hooker was so close and went to the judges. Some people think I won. I should be able to step in. Give me 2 weeks. I'm ready to go.
And I read online that Gamrot made the trip over to the US in anticipation that he was going to be a backup fighter for something. So it's like he spoke it into existence.
Manifesting, huh?
Manifesting that he's going to be a replacement fighter. I don't know why you'd manifest that, but I usually wait for the call. But apparently he's already in the US. But the fighter that I want to see face Justin Gaethje is Arman Tsarukyan.
I think Arman makes the most sense. Say that he pissed off Dana White for pulling out of that main event against Islam, right? What a way to earn his respect by jumping in on short notice and making quick work of Justin Gaethje. But the thing is, I don't know if Justin Gaethje would take the best #1 contender at lightweight.
Well, I mean, if you're Justin Gaethje, you got knocked out by Max Holloway. Your path back to the title means you have to beat someone of a better caliber than you, someone that's higher ranked, and that's Arman Tsarukyan. So the fight does make sense in terms of if Justin Gaethje wants to go for the title next. And for Arman Tsarukyan, you fucked up, you pulled out late. Dana hates you. You need to get in the good books.
Put your hand up.
And the only way to make up for pulling out on short notice is entering into a fight on short notice. So if I'm Arman Tsarukyan, I'm putting my hand up. He's probably in shape. He always looks like he's in shape.
He's always in shape, mate.
But he might struggle with a weight cut. But if it's only the week of, maybe he can make it in time.
I think he can get it done if he wants to, but it's ultimately up to Gaethje. I think Gaethje's been preparing so long for Dan Hooker. You got to think a year off as well. I just don't think he would want to take a fight on short notice. Again, for him to try and pursue going for that lightweight title, it's not the best for him to take a fight on 2 weeks' notice. But
it's a tough thing to ask for him to do so. But you got to weigh up the pros and cons for him. If you want that fight against Islam, if you want to be next in line, you got to beat Charles Oliveira or Arman Tsarukyan.
Other fights that have been announced in the past week is Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. This is going to be happening in UFC Miami, but this brings us to our MMA hot take. Is this the biggest fall from grace ever? Going from calling out Conor McGregor and potentially facing Conor McGregor to now having to face Paddy Pimblett?
The biggest fall from grace ever, yes, is Michael Chandler going from facing Conor McGregor, the UFC's megastar, the biggest name in the history of the sport, to, let's face it, the Audi version of Conor McGregor, Paddy Pimblett from Liverpool. I love Paddy Pimblett, very entertaining, great fighter. But if you're talking about the Irish superstar that is Conor McGregor, then the Liverpool scouser, Paddy Pimblett, it is a big fall.
It's a much more favourable fight for Paddy Pimblett, who wants to prove himself, get himself further in the rankings in that division. Whereas Michael Chandler, this is now you as a gatekeeper fighter. Do you know what I mean? This is you as you've fallen off from the likes of facing Charles, facing Conor McGregor, Islam, the top of the division, to now having to earn your stripes again.
You're versing the 12 to 15th rank because that's where he's at though. Like he's on a big losing streak. Hasn't fought in a while. Took a lot of time off wanting that Conor McGregor fight. But it's just the fans online are making fun of him. One, because
Well, that was
he
the
held
risk you
out.
took. It was the risk you took. You either hold out for a big payday, the red panty night with Conor McGregor, or you come back and face Charles, and lose, and now you have to face Paddy Pimblett and people lower ranked.
And we've asked the fighters this. We went and asked all the fighters at UFC 309, was Michael Chandler making the wrong decision holding out? And all of them said no. Because if you did get that fight with McGregor, that's life-changing money, that's game-changing money. Most of them said, yes, I would probably hold out for that fight. Unfortunately, McGregor, pinky toe, other reasons, can't fight, won't fight. So now he's had to change up his tune and go fight Charles Oliveira and now accept the fight against Paddy Pimblett, which I think he can win. And I think it's a very favourable fight for both. Both puts him on the map, gets him a big-name fight. So I really like the fight.
Dustin Poirier, who's faced Michael Chandler, hates Michael Chandler, says he's an underdog. I'd be taking him. Yeah. I'd be taking Michael Chandler
big from,
in this matchup.
Dustin Poirier with a backhanded compliment. Like, I'm not a fan of his, but I want him to win. It's like, oh, Dustin, if that's how you feel, I like it.
But don't discount Paddy Pimblett. I mean, he killed King Green, and people wrote him off against Bobby Green. But before that, it was Tony Ferguson. It's like they keep feeding him these legends of the sport, and he keeps putting them out. A lot of people are favouring Paddy Pimblett by submission. He's really going to test Michael Chandler. I don't know. But Paddy Pimblett has also been talking about someone that just relinquished his title in featherweight and has moved up to lightweight. Paddy Pimblett's been talking about Ilia Topuria, and he's had a lot of bad things to say about him.
Well, they've had a lot of bad blood in the past. Everyone's seen the press conference where Paddy Pimblett was having to go at Topuria, and Topuria's English just wasn't there yet. He was obviously trying to talk trash, couldn't do it yet. But I think Paddy Pimblett, with all due respect, he did look like he was in his post-fight or like pre-fight camp.
This is what Paddy Pimblett said. He said he shouldn't come up to lightweight. He's a midget lad in a Scouser accent. And he's not going to cut it here at lightweight. Should have stayed down at featherweight, right? And all the while saying this, he looked like he was about 3 burgers deep. He's obviously in that fluctuation of the weight.
Is that, post-fight where his cheeks are really full, he looks like he's put on 50 to 100 kilos. It's not a meme. It's just like that's the way he looks, when he's on in fight camp.
But he said this will be the downfall of Ilia Topuria's career. Do you think this is the right move for Ilia Topuria, and is Paddy right?
Well, look, I also saw another post that he's having to cut 40 pounds per fight camp, Ilia Topuria, just to make weight for featherweight. So it's a very hard weight cut for him. And
Paddy's not wrong. He would be the smallest fighter in that division.
He'd be a very small lightweight, but he's also got the weight to be a lightweight. So really, if you're just going off actual weight, not size and length. But Ilia Topuria was, I think, a lightweight before he went down to featherweight. So it's not going to be too hard of a transition for him. And he's already beaten Volkanovski and Max Holloway, both fighters that have had success in the lightweight division. I know Volk didn't win, but he pushed Islam to 5 rounds. Max Holloway just came off a win against Justin Gaethje, a top contender. So it is a bit of an it's a bit pointless to say it's going to be the end of his career because he's 27 or he's 28 years old. He's a featherweight champion coming off 2 big victories against Volk and Max Holloway. I feel like he's going to be successful.
Well,
whether he beats Islam is another question.
It's just
I think he's going to be successful.
It's the bad blood between them. This is, I think someone threw a hand sanitizer bottle at one another. They've never really liked each other. And Paddy Pimblett said, I'm happy to welcome you to the division, but Ilia Topuria doesn't want to be welcomed by anyone. He doesn't even want to be welcomed by Arman Tsarukyan.
Yeah, he said, I want the champion. Apparently, he was offered, it's all alleged, he was offered Arman Tsarukyan in a number 1 contenders fight, and he said, no, I want Islam for the champion. And now, I did see a fan comment replying to this, saying, no one has a problem when Islam doesn't want to verse Bilal because of their Muslim brotherhood.
Yeah.
But people have a problem when Ilia doesn't want to verse Arman and they're, Christian mountain brothers. I kind of agree with that.
I don't think it has anything to do with that at all. The team came out and said they don't want a number 1 contender fight. They think they've done enough to deserve a title fight.
And that's even more fair.
When you think about it, who has a better resume right now in the sport to knock out Volk and knock out Max Holloway? You could request a lightweight title fight. I mean, there's enough money there. On drawing power alone to go face Islam, he has the right to do it. And Dustin Poirier, again, he's been asked the question. He said, give Ilia the title shot.
Yeah, I feel like
deserves it.
He deserves
Arman's
it.
in the bad books right now. The company had faith in you to go into this main event in January. It was a big card. They probably had to refund a lot of people who were going into that fight.
Yeah,
Regardless, I just think Ilia Topuria is money enough to demand a title shot. And it's up to really Islam to take that fight. Islam is supposed to be some warrior, says, I can go anyone, any place, any time. Take the Ilia Topuria fight.
I agree, though, with Islam in that Topuria probably had to have one more fight, whether it be Volk again or a number 1 contender fight, like against a Charles Oliveira.
If knocking out these 2 people isn't enough,
but he did it at featherweight.
Definitive victories.
He did it at featherweight. It didn't do it in lightweight. So someone like Charles Oliveira, who's had victories in lightweight, or Arman Tsarukyan, who's had victories, number 1 contender, has earned the title shot. To leapfrog them is big. But based on drawing power. Obviously, it's an entertainment sport as much as it is. You got to deserve a title fight.
I mean, we've seen
On pure
Charles
entertainment.
Islam. You know what I mean? We've seen Charles Islam, who in the lightweight division is going to be more entertaining than Ilya versus
I
Islam.
think
right now.
the Arman fight definitely should still happen. I understand he stuffed up, pulled out late, whatever it is. No one knows the full story. But Arman is still the number one contender. He beat Charles Oliveira. He beat Benil Dariush. He deserves a title shot. He's versus Islam before was one of his biggest tests wrestling-wise. So I would give Arman the shot. But if they're going on entertainment value, I want to see Ilya as well.
I mean, Dana White's pretty much said there's a lot of options on the table right now, whether it's Ilya and Islam. So he's going to exhaust all of those. Islam is the fighter that says, I will take anything the company gives me if that's put forward. They're saying it could be done as early as International Fight Week. So could you imagine Ilya versus Islam Makhachev International Fight Week? I think that's the pay-per-view to make.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like if you're Ilya Topuria, you're not vacating your title for no reason. You've got on good promise from Dana, you've got on good word from Dana that you're going to get the next title shot at lightweight. Because he came out and said, Dan Hooker was like, he had to vacate it because you can't go up and become double champ anymore. They're not giving people the opportunity to become a double champ. Dana White said, no, I didn't force anyone to vacate anything. He did this. He wants to do this. He doesn't want to make the weight cut anymore, and he feels like he's done everything in the featherweight division. So Ilya Topuria, I think, will get the next lightweight title shot, and I hope it is in June because I want to see it sooner rather than later.
Well, let's move on to the bantamweight division. Dana White addressed the next challenger for Merab, and it could be Suga Sean. He said Suga Sean wants to fight Merab. He's been wanting this rematch. Merab wants this rematch. They're going to try and make that happen. I just feel like it's a bit hard on Peter Yan, who's done plenty in the division and finally deserves his rematch. But it just shows you how good Merab is. He's pretty much cleared the division already.
Well, the thing is, I don't like this because the same reason of Sean O'Malley isn't a Volkanovski-type champion where he had 5-6 title defenses and deserves an automatic rematch. Suga Sean arguably lost to Peter Yan. Beat Cheeto Vera, okay, but that wasn't someone that really deserved the title shot.
And got dominated by Merab.
And got dominated by Merab. So where in that do you see okay, Suga Sean deserves an immediate rematch, deserves a title shot?
Well, the only difference is I don't think it was as dominant as what Merab did to Umar. Say what you want, it was injuries and whatever. Suga Sean just got out-wrestled and Merab didn't convincingly win, didn't do a lot with the control time. So Suga Sean says, a couple things go different in that fight and I could have come out victorious.
But regardless, Peter Yan versus Suga Sean, a couple things go differently in that fight. Peter Yan gets a title shot. Peter Yan's still the champion, who knows? Peter Yan versus Suga Sean O'Malley should be the match to make for the number one contenders fight.
And you also have to think, though, it's about drawing money. And it does Peter Yan versus Merab sell. Could you see that headlining a pay-per-view? To be honest, I can't. Merab versus Suga Sean. Suga Sean, the golden boy of the UFC, the one that they push to the moon, gets his title shot at Redemption. I think that just sells a bit more, and that's why Dana's prioritizing that.
And that's the thing. It just feels like they're continuing that push. Even
Well,
though he
that
lost,
would be his last push. If he loses that, he's going to have to move out of the division or, just be, fighting for contender spots.
it just doesn't sound fair that Merab beat Suga Sean back in July last year, August. Actually, no, sorry, July.
He's nursing
September.
a lot of injuries as well.
I know Suga Sean had that shoulder injury, but in the meantime, Merab's had to have a fight against Umar, and now he's got to fight Suga Sean again. It's like he's had double the workload, double the training. Really, Suga Sean should have a fight before going for the title. That's the only thing that does logically make sense. But if Merab's open to the fight, why not make it happen? I think Merab's just that confident that he's going to beat him again. It's like, let's just get it over and done with. The same way he thought with Umar. Okay, I'm going to go. Let's go in January. I'm that confident we'll get it done. And I think it's just a bad matchup for Suga Sean. Merab will beat you again. He's just going to go for the same shoot every 2 seconds. Just keep wrestling you. Just keep dominating you on the ground. And that's the fight. That's going to be another boring one.
I guess we'll wait and see. But, there was other news that was broken all of last week. When you see Dana White on a live stream, UFC fans are either waiting for a fight to be cancelled or it's going to be the best news of your life. This guy just hops on a 2-3 minute live stream, announces 2 fights, a title vacancy, and one of the big announcements was Volk versus Diego Lopez. Now, I would have liked to see this in Sydney because everyone would have gotten around it. But Volk was said, we had gotten a date in April, we just didn't know who the opponent was going to be. And now he finally has Diego Lopez. Is this going to be the return fight that puts Volk back? This is the title shot that he's been waiting for. Is this the return fight that puts Volk back in the win column?
With no Australian bias, yes. I feel like this is him making his comeback, going to win the title, because I don't think Diego Lopez is of the same caliber of Volkanovski. Volkanovski is the greatest featherweight of all time. Yes, he lost to Ilia Topuria, but that's the only featherweight loss he's had in his UFC career. Wow. Like, if you really put that into perspective, okay, everyone overreacts, maybe puts too much into he lost to Islam. But he almost did beat Islam the first time. The guy is a freak athlete, one of the best cardio machines in the UFC. And with this fight against Diego Lopez, I can see him winning, definitely. I know he's getting up there in age, and usually people, I think below featherweight, over 35 years old, struggle in title fights. But Volkanovski's going to be the exception. I feel like he's got this victory down pat.
I don't think UFC fans or Aussie fans could handle either another Volk lockout or another Volk loss. It would cause a depression. And I don't think that's going to happen. The guy looks in tremendous shape. He's been training the house down in Thailand. He's been in the fight camp for the last 3 months.
It's over a year off since his Topuria loss.
He'll be fresh. He'll be very fresh. But everyone was begging the question, does Diego Lopez deserve a shot at the interim title? And right now, it's either Diego Lopez or Movsar Evloev. And that's what Aljamain Sterling was saying on Twitter. He said Diego Lopez didn't really deserve it. It should have gone to...
Should have gone to Evloev.
Should have gone to Evloev.
He's making the point that Evloev did beat Diego Lopez. Yes, it was like 3 years ago, but Evloev did beat Aljamain Sterling, and he did beat Diego Lopez. So
he'd definitely been in line for a shot.
He'd definitely be in line, but Diego Lopez did fire back and say, listen, I'm getting a title shot because I've been active. Yes, I lost to Movsar Evloev, but Movsar Evloev's fought 3 times in the last 3 years. Diego Lopez has fought 5-6 times.
So he looks good.
And they're rewarding his activity. They're rewarding him for being active in the octagon and getting wins against top contenders like Brian Ortega. So I'm not too fussed with him getting a title shot. I do think Movsar Evloev is a superior fighter and will probably get a title shot next. But it is what it is. I think Volk versus Diego Lopez is probably the more entertaining fight.
It's the story of the veteran, old bull of the division versus the young, hungry cat. Diego Lopez has some fast hands. Not Ilia Topuria-like, but this guy he's got knockout power behind him. Volk's got to be very prepared. I'm leaning more towards Volk. I can't wait to see it. It's the return of Volk, the king of the division.
But going back to Dana White, just hops on a random Instagram live and then just starts spurting out all the UFC news that's been rumoured.
Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. Ilia Topuria dropping the featherweight title.
Bilal versus JDM. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. He just maps out the next 3 months on a random Instagram live. I know there's a lot of time and effort that goes into these announcements, but there's rumours swirling online for months on end about which fight's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Dana White says, all right, in 1 hour, I'm having an Instagram live stream. Everyone jump on, and I'll tell you what's happening.
And then he just starts dropping hints in the live stream too. He just confirms, hey, we're going to make John Jones versus Tom Aspinall happen. Don't worry, it's coming.
He's just responding to live comments, just in the chat, just responding. Hey, it'll happen. I'll make it happen.
There's not a better CEO of a fight promotion in the game. He understands his fans. He understands the social element of going Instagram live. Constantly putting up reels, promoting fights, promoting fight nights. You know what I mean? When he has a criticism of someone, you hear about it in the post-match press conference, whether it's Henry Cejudo or just other fighters.
He's probably the best CEO promoter ever, bar the post-match press conferences. Because
you don't like him?
The last few, at least in the past year, Dana's post-fight press conferences has been him shitting on fighters. Yeah. Whether it was that 304 one in Manchester, where it's like that was the worst card I've ever seen. Yeah. It's like, Dana, you made them fight at 6 o'clock in the morning. Cut him a bit of slack. Then it was him taking a shit on Henry Cejudo. Oh, do you want to see that rematch? Oh, I don't.
I don't think he likes Henry Cejudo because Henry Cejudo retired at the top of the division and then came back like 2-3 years later for absolutely no reason. And maybe from a money standpoint as well. So he probably did the company dirty in that division. But again, if he doesn't like you, you'll know he doesn't like you. And Aljamain Sterling has said that. Other fighters have said that. You really have to get in Dana's good books.
He wasn't showing a lot of glowing praise for Merab in that post-fight press conference either.
If you get on his good side, it's probably best for you. But he respects if you're putting in the work and putting on entertaining fights. That's all he wants.
And let's go back to when Jon Jones was light heavyweight champion. He took a bit of shit on him as well, saying he was ducking Ngannou. He said shit about Ngannou in post-fight press conference.
He's a promoter, mate. He's putting the company first. He wants what's best for the business. And that's the role of a promoter.
Yeah, but when you go over to boxing, what boxing was missing is a Dana White. Yeah. And that shows you how good Dana White is because he's built the UFC from back whatever it was, 1999 to what it is now. Face of the company, answers all the questions, faces the press, faces the media, and does a great job. So I think, Dana White, if this is your way of announcing fights now, I'm a big fan of it.
Keep it coming. Now, I want to get into Alex Pereira. He's received a lot of criticism, for his preparation this is his biggest test against Ankalaev. Daniel Cormier came out and said, You're still in Australia. You're still riding Lamborghinis. You're not in training camp. The fight's in 2 weeks. Alex, what are you doing? Are you taking this fight seriously?
Well, DC and Shale both did draw concerns because, let's look at it. His fight is next week. Just last week, he was at the Drake concert. Before that,
His fist bumping Drake.
He's touring Australia like he was touring South Korea, going to visit businesses.
Yeah.
I saw him eating a cake.
Kicking people in the leg, signing people's tits.
And then a new video comes out of him in New York, somehow teleported from Australia to New York,
Yeah.
just giving a wad of cash to a random fan.
Handing out some money.
And then on top of that, the next video that comes out is Alex Pereira wrestling his manager in the snow.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. He was wrestling Glover Teixeira in the snow.
And then he's putting out skits with Nina. Now, I am fully confident that this guy is always prepared. He's always training. He's always sharpening the tools, but he's just doing it in foreign countries. Chael Sonnen said, it's kind of different from being in a gym and focused on your opponent to fighting in your hotel gym or, getting some mat space in the hotel and you're not really locked in.
not the same.
Ankalaev, on the other hand, is fully prepped. He wants the title. He's training with Volkov. This guy's ready to go. He knows this is his only chance.
Ankalaev has gone 0 dark 30
Yeah.
in Dagestan preparing for this fight, while Pereira's been parading around, gallivanting, in Australia, New York, wherever it is. But in saying that, if you look before the Yuri Prohaska fight, where was Alex Pereira?
Australia.
He was in Australia. So
The
he
guy
knows what he's
needs
doing.
2 weeks' notice. He's a bloody knockout artist. If he can avoid the wrestle of Ankalaev, which I'm sure he's been preparing for the last 2 years. He's been training with the likes of Dylan Dennis. He's been working with Polino on his wrestling. So, look, ultimately, I think he's going to be fine, and he's going to stay prepped.
And to put to rest any concerns that Chael Sonnen has about him getting in proper sessions, I don't think he realizes who Alex Pereira is and how well he's treated in Australia. Yes, he might do a hotel this here and there, might have a hotel mat.
But he's welcome at every gym in Australia.
Every single gym in
Walk straight
Australia
through.
would drop everything, kick out every single member to have Alex Pereira train there for 2 minutes. So I'm pretty sure if Alex Pereira wanted to, he'd be getting in the right sessions. Pereira, Teixeira, and I can't pronounce his name.
Polino
Cruz would be making sure that he's very, very much prepared, and he probably did get the best sessions possible in Australia.
Well, let's move on. It's been an absolute big year. A lot of undefeated fighters have been losing in 2025. It's not a good year for undefeated fighters.
Literally every undefeated fighter you can think of that's fought on a UFC card this year has lost.
When you look at some of the fighters that have lost, I mean, Shara the Bullet got his O taken away by Michael Venom Page. Peyton Talbot, who was a very exciting fighter going into a pay-per-view, loses.
Umar Nurmagomedov, one of the Dagestanis, Khabib's cousin, has lost in 2025. No one's record is safe this year.
Cody Steele, who was 7-0, a favorite going into his fight, becomes 7-1. Listen, if your favorite fighter is undefeated this year, it's not a guarantee. They could still take the loss.
And that's the beauty of the UFC, though. You can lose and still go forward, still make a name for yourself, still win a championship. So yes, they have lost, but it's not the biggest deal. Like let's just, it's the UFC. You can lose. Everyone can get caught on their best day or on a shit day. But if you're going to be gambling for the rest of the year,
Just take that into account.
Just take that into account. Just because they're undefeated doesn't mean they're going to win.
Now, I want to get into boxing because we were just in Saudi Arabia for the last crescendo, the greatest fight card ever assembled. There was a bit of speed bumps along the way. Daniel Dubois pulled out with a sickness.
2 days before his fight. So if you think the UFC's got problems, boxing has the same problem.
Shakur Stevenson's opponent dropped out. He had to face Josh Padley, who came in on bloody 4 days' notice. He was working as a Sparky, came in.
Working on it as a Sparky on the Tuesday, came in versus Shakur
Made some
Stevenson.
good money. But regardless, is boxing making a resurgence as the #1 combat sport? With Turki El-Sheikh acting as the Dana White of the sport. If a boxing card had speed bumps like that with the co-main event dropping out, that fight would have just been done. It would not have been replaced. It wouldn't have been a replacement fighter. With Turki El-Sheikh in there, they got a replacement fighter on 2 days' notice, which was Martin Bakoli, who was ranked #5 in the division. So this happens a lot in UFC when they have the backup fighter, and as a promotion, the machine that they are ready. They are ready to go to announce a replacement fight. Now with Turki El-Sheikh at the helm, is it becoming a known popular sport, which is going to be, the next UFC?
Look, boxing is making a resurgence, and it is because of Turki El-Sheikh and the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. Because they've pulled together Matchroom Boxing, Golden Boy.
Queensbury Promotions.
They've pulled in all the big worldwide boxing promotions and are bringing them under one umbrella. They're paying the fighters. They're getting everyone to be happy to make these big matchups. And Turkey Al-Sheikh is making it UFC-like. He's putting on massive cards. He's going to different cities around the world. And he's like that one promoter that what he says goes. He's obviously hung out with Dana White. Maybe he's taken a lot of learning from him. And if they do this in the future, where they do bring it all under one umbrella, Canelo Alvarez, Crawford, Usyk, Tyson Fury, Benavidez, then you're just going to have everyone, okay, this is the top fight promotion. This is who I want to fight for. This is where everyone's getting paid. And it'll make a resurgence because there are personalities in boxing and there are fans of boxing that aren't fans of the UFC.
And the fighters are making bank. They are getting paid over in Saudi. I don't know what they are getting paid under their current promotions where they're fighting in the UK or Australia. But obviously it's the place to be, Saudi Arabia. And they're looking beyond Saudi Arabia. They're looking at fighting in Times Square in May. They've had LA, Los Angeles cards. You know what I mean? So Turkey Al-Sheikh, I think, has been the best thing for boxing so far. Again, if a fight was on and it got called off in the last minute, to find a replacement fighter in boxing, that stuff never happens. Let's look at the reported fighter pay for Bivol versus Bertabiev 2, starting with Ajit Kaboyo, who made $1.2 million.
Wow. For a fighter that's very low on the card, I know it was a main card fight, but $1.2 million, you're looking at the co-main and main event of a UFC card.
And the guy won with some great body shots against who was the draw, Zayli Zhang, I bang you, no Diddy, got $2.5 million. He's a draw.
That's amazing. The Asian man does deserve it because he was one of the most entertaining parts of the card, no Diddy. But $2.5 million is main event money. He was nowhere near the main event.
He's getting that Chinese audience. So $2.5 million, I think it's worth it. Now looking at Josh Padley, who took the fight on 4 days' notice. He was doing some electrical work. The electrician that came in on short notice, $500,000 and apparently a new house.
Well, Turkey Al-Sheikh wanted to reward him for coming in on short notice, fighting Shakur Stevenson. And look, if you're a Sparky in the UK, to earn $500,000 will probably take you 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So
Eddie Hearn said he got himself a new house as well. So they're changing lives in Saudi.
He's changed his life. He's just saved himself 5 to 6 years of hard labor.
Okay, you got Shakur Stevenson, $2.1 million.
Again, someone that is an entertaining fighter, but this is not like a money fight against Tank Davis where you're going to be earning big dollars. Maybe then, if he does versus Tank Davis, you're probably looking at 10 mil plus with these figures.
Yeah, I mean, that's big money. That's big money to get him done in 9 rounds for a fighter on short notice. He said, listen, I've fought in the amateurs. Sometimes you don't know who you're going to fight. To not know going in and still collect $2.1 million and do it pretty convincingly, congratulations. That's a big payday. Now we've got Martin Bakole, who took the fight on 2 days' notice, had to take a business class flight on Ethiopian Airlines, made $600,000. I would have thought it was going to be a bit more.
I thought it'd be a bit more as well, but considering the shape he was in, I think maybe if he was in better shape, we'd have bumped up the figure. But $600,000, nothing to sneeze at.
Mate, for 2 rounds of work.
You got to think on a Wednesday night, you're thinking, okay, I might chill out this weekend. Maybe just might not do much. Then on the Thursday, it's like, okay, I might earn $600,000 this weekend.
Yeah.
You take that.
You'll take that. Joseph Parker, $2 million for 2 rounds. Knocked Martin Bakole out in the second round and made $2 million.
I don't know if they do these Forbes lists in New Zealand, but I think he'd be the highest paid New Zealand athlete. Like with that figure,
$2 million, yeah.
If you're earning $2 million a fight, Joseph Parker, I think you're the highest grossing New Zealand athlete of all time.
Artur Beterbiev, $10 million.
Now, this is main event boxing money. This is why people say boxing is different. Boxing money is different. This is why Francis Ngannou left the UFC and ran to Saudi Arabia, because you're getting $10 million for a main event.
It's pretty crazy.
And he couldn't speak English pretty much either. He wasn't main event.
He wasn't doing much to promote the fight. Again, the guy's boxing prowess, up until this point, he had not lost in his career. But have to think about that. He took his first loss. He's 40 years old, making $10 million in the sport. It's pretty crazy.
It's very crazy.
And lastly, Dimitri Bivol earning $10 million.
Very well deserved. Someone that did avenge his only loss in boxing, was one of the biggest draws. And look, fair credit to the Saudis. They put on a show. Every single part of that whole spectacle, from the entertainment on the entrances,
The production,
world class, and Dimitri Bivol, $10 million. That's great. Main event boxing money is just different.
A guy that's beaten Canelo Alvarez and now taken the undefeated, Bertabiev. Unbelievable. For someone that, we're not the biggest boxing fans, to understand how great this guy is, and they're setting up a trilogy, so he's going to probably earn another $10 million.
10 to 15 minimum.
Yeah, congratulations on that. Now let's move over. It is WrestleMania season. We're officially on the road to WrestleMania. Elimination Chamber is coming up this weekend. That brings me to our question. Who is going to main event WrestleMania? And we're not talking about night one. Night one WrestleMania main event does not count. We're talking about who is WrestleMania main event on night 2. Who is the final match?
Well, there's a lot of options right now. The Elimination Chamber is this weekend. You'd think the winner is going to face Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania.
So you look at the options.
Look at the options. CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. Could happen.
I'm a fan of that match.
John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Could happen. And then the other potential main event that I think might happen is the triple threat match, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. They're really the only three realistic WrestleMania main event options because The Rock has come back, but it doesn't look like he'll be wrestling.
I do think there could be a Rock versus Cody as well. All that's happened over this weekend with The Rock coming back, he said, Cody, I want your soul, is trying to get him to the dark side. Could this be a Rock versus Cody Rhodes main event, which could lead to Rock Roman maybe next year? I don't know what's going to happen. Everyone's confused right now. But what match I want to see CM Punk finally main event. I feel like that's the story that has got the most traction. The guy's been on the show every week. He's been cutting great promos. The fans are right behind him. Yes, everyone wants to see John Cena and John Cena finally get to number 17. But again, John Cena's in Hungary filming a movie. He hasn't been there on the road. And yes, The Rock can come back and main event whatever you want. He's the final boss. But I don't know. It's John Cena's final main event, so maybe he deserves it against Cody Rhodes. But I think CM Punk's done enough, and people will get behind it.
I want John Cena.
Okay.
I'm not even the biggest John Cena guy, but let's look at John Cena's resume. Carried the company for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Going for number 17. It's his final WrestleMania ever. If John Cena doesn't main event, I'd be very disappointed.
I'm surprised that Roman Reigns hasn't been in discussions. I know they're setting up him versus Seth Rollins and potentially CM Punk. CM Punk might get a favor from him this weekend. I guess we'll wait and see.
He's not in the chamber.
He's not in the chamber. Our prediction is, he probably spoils Seth Rollins in the chamber, and that could set up the triple threat. But regardless, this could be the first time in a long time we don't see Roman Reigns in the main event. So I could see Roman Reigns main eventing night 1, but not night 2.
Well, if Cody Rhodes is going to main event night 2, if you're making him clear-cut, the guy, the main event in the business.
The face of the company.
It's got to be him versus John Cena or him versus CM Punk.
Or him versus The Rock.
The only thing, though, as well, is Cody Rhodes going to be a heel? They've teased it so many times. And if he's going to verse CM Punk or John Cena, he has to be the heel. They're too big of baby faces. They're too big a crowd favourites to go in as a heel against Cody Rhodes.
Well, it's ultimately if The Rock wants to wrestle or not. If The Rock is bothered enough to wrestle, it's Rock versus Cody Rhodes. If not, I think you're going to see more likely a Cena or a CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes, and that's the main event of WrestleMania.
And look, you don't agree? The road to WrestleMania build-up, I feel like, is usually longer than this. They usually have plans in place from now to see who's going to main event. And the only main event that they say is going to happen is Jey Uso versus Gunther. But that's not going on the night 2 card at all.
That's going to be the opening match on night 1, or it's night 2 main event. I'm sorry.
Night 1 main event.
It's night 1 main event.
And that's a big stretch. Even that's a big stretch for him to main event. I know it's main event Jey Uso, but everyone's calling him mid Jey Uso right now.
Well, just there's too many other big stars on the roster that deserve that main event spot, including Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, The Rock, Cody Rhodes. I think their story and the Bloodline story is just surpassing main event Jey Uso. I don't care about how much merch he's selling. It's just not there for me, and I respect Gunther as a champion. I just don't see him main eventing night 1 or 2.
And John Cena, this is supposed to be a full-time schedule.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Where
are you, John Cena? Because if I'm not seeing you, I can't really campaign for you to be the main event of WrestleMania.
Maybe he is there every week. We just can't see him. I don't know. Ultimately, I do think it's going to be CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes, or it's going to be John Cena going for the 17th title, going for his last WrestleMania to main event WrestleMania. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. But who is your last prediction? Who's winning the chamber this weekend?
I've got CM Punk.
Okay.
CM Punk winning with the help of Roman Reigns.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because he still does owe him a favour, doesn't he?
There's a favour to be owed.
What is that favour?
Who you got?
I've got John Cena because they've teased it. Obviously, the last elimination of the Royal Rumble, he's obviously changed his tune after that. He's become serious John Cena. Yeah. We might see crew cut John Cena. Actually, you know what? I changed my prediction. If John Cena's coming out with the military cut, he's winning. If he's still got the long hair, I want CM Punk.
If he's got the long hair and the long socks with the sketches on, he's not winning.
Yeah, no, he's not winning.
Yeah.
That's the shit John Cena that no one wants to see. I want CM Punk in that case.
But thank you for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the show at K-Roos Bros on YouTube and keep a lookout for the clips at Jon-Bernard K on Instagram and TikTok. That's all we have time for on Trash Talk. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.